Why isn't it?
You want to do a verbal? Okay. Want to do a verbal? I think it's perfect.
All right, I see we're on camera, so welcome to the March meeting of the Devils Lake Water Improvement District Board of Directors. This meeting is a week early due to a scheduling conflict. First order of business is roll call. I see that we have all directors present except Kip Ward, who hopefully will be along shortly. Any of the board members want to remove anything from the consent agenda for discussion?
I'll make a motion we consent agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Now's the time for comments from citizens present on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the district's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the board may use the light system, and we will. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a board member may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. The chair has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment in accordance with the number of persons present and signed up to speak. And we have 2 people signed up to speak. That doesn't mean we're limited to 2, though. So, first person signed here is John Forrest. John, come on up.
Yeah, I haven't spoken at this before, so let me know if I'm doing the wrong procedure, but I kind of wanted to know is anything planned for the Devils Lake Revival this year so far? Do we have a date or anything?
It's the 18th of July.
18th of July? Okay. Well, what I was hoping is, I don't know if there's anything scheduled for an SUP element of the event, but I'd like to propose doing getting a pro from Hood River to come and do a demonstration, a clinic for. I think it would get a lot of people more involved in the revival, the SUP part of it. If we had a pro here to do a kind of a clinic before we'd have a modified race after it, maybe a 2-miler or something like that. But I could help put it together if you guys, want to back it. I think it would take a couple of bucks to get them here from Hood River to do it, but I think a couple of bucks would do it, and I think it'd make a big difference in the turnout for the revival if we could put it together. So.
Yeah, explain what the SUP is.
Stand-up paddle. It's the fastest growing board sport in the world right now. I think there was a little bit of a turnout last year. I think there's more and more each year. I took my trailer down there last year, and the Oregon Surf Shop had a bunch of their boards there, and I think they had a modified race. I think they did that day too. I'm not sure, but it had a better response each year. I've done it 2 years, and I think we could really. I think it'd really explode with a pro doing a clinic.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a great idea, John. Why don't you contact the guy and see A, if he's willing to come, and B, what the cost would be, and just let Paul know the cost. But
yeah, what I
like a good thing.
What I kind of want to use the revival as a as a chance to promote an event later in the season, which would have 2 courses. I tried to do an event about 2 or 3 years ago in the summer, and it was a little too early. But I think now's the time. The time is ripe, and it would work. And later in September, so I'd like to run an event out of probably East Devils Lake Park, because there's more parking and stuff over there, and do 2 courses on the lake on a Saturday, and then 1 downwind course from Rhodes End to basically landing at Moe's, and a modified SUP surfing contest right on the sand spit right there. So it might just be another late summer event for Lincoln City, bringing a lot of people. So that's just kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, all sounds great, but so let Paul know that information
Okay.
as soon as you've got it.
All right, will do.
Thank
Thanks.
you, sir.
Thanks, John.
I'm having a tough time reading this one. Max? No, or Hank? Max. Garat? Mark. Mark Christie. Jeez. Mark, can you read this? This is your name, and I bet you can't read it.
It's a little I thought I was right after him, and I was going, man, was I that bad? Anyway, Mark Christie, 3184 Northeast Loop Drive. I just wanted to kind of do something a little bit fun tonight. I think you guys know the Devils Lake Neighborhood Association sponsored last year's 4th of July boat parade, which was probably the biggest in years, and the first ever, at least in recent history, on the lake fireworks display. I am happy to report that we have secured Friday, July 3rd as the date for the 2nd annual 4th of July extravaganza. We'll have a boat parade again, and invite the board out. We'd like to arrange. I know April, the next board meeting's got a lot on your plate and a lot on the agenda, but we'd like to come to you and make a presentation in May to tell you what that's all about. Ask for your participation. We'd love to have you join with us and sponsor that event. Hundreds of people turned out. There were literally hundreds of boats on the lake and folks on the shore. It was a sight to be seen. I think a lot of you probably saw that. So I just wanted to tell you that, get you excited about something fun that we can continue to show the great things that we do here on Devil's Lake. And I think the SUP opportunity that's coming up sounds like a great way to continue to work that, bringing folks to Devil's Lake and enjoying what we've got here. So, thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mark. Anybody else would like to come up and speak? All right. Move on with unfinished business on the agenda, the Devil's Lake plan items. First being septic sewer.
Yeah, so just briefly, just wanted to point out that you're kind of trying to knock on some doors and get some energy around this, and was able to bring this topic up at the town hall meeting that the city held recently, and was picked up by the News Guard. So we're getting some interest, and it's just the way we need to really approach this and get this continually in front of the new council and with the new city manager. So that's just kind of an announcement. Second announcement, and it gets into the LID of Brian's there, is just that they're having their second half of the public hearing, I guess, if extended, the continuation of the public hearing, which will be this Monday, March 9th, 6 p.m. in these chambers. And sent a letter on your behalf and copied an old letter that you had sent in 2012. And I heard back from one counselor in particular who had been through this whole thing that he appreciated the reminder as well as the reintroduction to some of the people that weren't there at the time. So that was done. And then I plan to give a public comment also at that meeting.
Good, yeah, any board members that want to come and comment at the public hearing would be greatly appreciated. Well, I guess for a report on the LID, as Paul says, the second half of the hearing is Monday night. I would expect that the council will act one way or the other at the conclusion of the hearing. Probably the best way to summarize what the council has to do, and it's quite extensive, what the staff has recommended and what the council is required to do to bring this to fruition is the following. I'll just read from the staff report. They have to ask, the council has to both approve the formation of the LID, the method of assessment, and create the reimbursement district for any adjacent properties in the future they want to add on, so that they have to participate in the original cost paid by the original property owners. Then they will do some first for the city in amending the municipal code to allow financing of the systems development charges in the LID. They would have to prepare a resolution to apply for a community loan program through DEQ to finance installation of the property side improvements, the lines past the property line, the pump, and the line to the house. That will all hopefully be able to be financed through a loan from DEQ, which would be good for about 3 years, and then that program would go away. So it's for people who hook up within the first 3 years. At least that's the present form of the offer from DEQ. The council will have to pass a resolution or an ordinance allowing a gravel street minimum upgrade, because the 16-foot wide paved road is not currently allowed under the municipal code. So, this is a recognition that really there should be this minimum upgrade standard for not just our neighborhood, but other neighborhoods throughout Lincoln City who are established, who don't need and don't want, and would actually hurt the neighborhood to have a 40-foot wide road and require curbs and sidewalks and the whole 9 yards usually required of new development. So that's a good and useful thing. Then we have the staff, I guess, is going to have to develop a maintenance agreement for the property owners, pursuant to which the city will agree to maintain the pumps if the property owner will grant access to the pump, which seems like a minor request. The city hasn't said, and I'm not sure they've decided whether or if they've decided they don't want to say whether they're going to charge for the maintenance, but my suspicion is that they probably will not, simply because they don't charge to maintain the sewer line outside your home. So we'll see. And they want uniform maintenance to that. I mean, that's a big issue with them. The only way to assure that is to do it themselves. If they are going to charge for it, then the property owner got the option to say, well, then I won't allow you access, and I'll just hire my own outfit to do the maintenance. And then you've got who knows how many different entities doing maintenance, and they don't want that. And then They need an ordinance too for the mandatory connection triggers, which are from memory. The absolute outside connection trigger, if none of the others happen beforehand, is 15 years from the date of installation. The others are sale of the home. If you expand, remodel that includes an expansion of more than 50% of the size of the home. Did I say sale? I said sale of the home. And if their system fails, they're not going to allow you to repair it. You're just going to have to hook up to the new system. So that's one of those requirements. I've in my written comment for the City Council's meeting, I have asked that since we know the septic systems have a useful life of 20 to 30 years, and there are 2 or 3 systems that have been installed quite recently, so that when the 15-year hookup requirement comes along, those systems will not yet be 25 years old. So I'm asking the council to adjust that hookup requirement to be either 15 years or 25 years from the date of installation of the system, whichever is longer. That's actually going to mean in real life that 2 or 3 of the systems will probably get an extension of 2 or 3 years at most to hook up. But some of the opponents were complaining that they had installed their systems pretty recently, and so I think that's a fair complaint. They should get the economic value out of their system, and we can assume that system is going to continue to function properly for a 25-year period. So I asked the council to give them a break and let them hold on to their system a little bit longer.
Brian?
Yes.
When do the people start paying?
Well, for the initial assessment will be for the paving and for the installation of the main line down the middle of the road, and then the lateral to the property line. That amount will be about $4,000 for the paving and about $4,000 for the line, their share of the installation of the line. And they start. There's an assessment hearing after once the construction is completed, the actual exact costs are determined, and the council will basically, pass the assessment ordinance at that point in time, and people have to start paying, I assume, shortly after that. They have the option to elect to finance for 20 years under the Bancroft Act, and that means that the monthly payment, I haven't looked at it, but it will be about, I think it's pretty close guesstimation of $55 to $60 a month.
So if they elect, though, to keep using their own system, but yet they have the ability to hook up, how does that work?
They only have to hook up if one of those 4 triggers that I mentioned occurs, and if none of the other 3 occur, then they got to hook up at the end of the 15-year period. So, and of course, about half the homes half the sites are occupied by existing homes, and the other half are bare lots, and so obviously all the new bare lots have to hook up to the sewer, if they build. So, okay, any further questions, comments? Save our shoreline, Paul.
Just a quick update from what's in the staff report, but so the one property that I mentioned that Ava had been working on, they've actually now are in concert working with a landscaper as well, so I did a site visit out there, and so that's moving forward. And then on the city property, actually at the Maryland Pump Station, they're doing that fix of the Maryland Pump Station, and I met with the city engineer, I think it was Tuesday out there, and so they're looking at coupling that whole project and following up with a, the shoreline restoration on that. So last thing is just an announcement. We do have a few plants to still move from our last outreach campaign, so if people want to give us a call or stop by the office, we can set you up with a few sedges and rushes to get into the ground. It's a good time to plant because the ground's soft, and we should get some rains in March here, and we'll see April. But yeah, so it's a good time to plant and start restoring your shoreline. That's it.
Okay, then no further word on the grass carp application, right?
We're still kind of in that hold period, waiting for them to reach out to us when they'll have us on their agenda. So.
All right, communications report.
Yeah, there's a lot in here. A couple things I wanted to point out is, first off, the Lake Steward Award. We didn't get any hand-delivered nominations, but I actually had one that I thought I would float to you. You may have some of your own. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not seeing anybody raising their hand. Or is there anybody that you have?
I got one. I'd like to nominate Randy Weldon for the work that he's done on the dam issue. He's just full of one good idea after another. It's not just the dam issue, but it's all that's coming to mind. You surprised me with this request, so. I recall the life jacket station. That's another great idea. So I think those two things, and others I'm not thinking of right now, I would nominate Randy Weldon. You can't pull your name from nomination.
I was trying to figure out how.
Vote for yourself.
Okay.
Well, the one that I thought you might want to consider is a couple people, integral people associated with the Tiger Sharks program, and that being Sky Anderson and Keith Galbraith, and their role in developing that program, which you of course partner with, provides a lot of great outreach to young adults that we don't obviously have a lot of connection to, and with the lake and water safety and really stewards of the lake, long term. So I thought that would be somebody that you might want to consider, and would just throw that into to your thoughts too. I think you guys all know them.
Well, you're saying that I'm just noticing this now, that the nominations were due back by the March meeting, which would be now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in order to get...
Are you giving us a few more days? Is that the idea, or what?
Well, typically you decide now because you kind of, it's your kind of decision, and, make all your decisions in open forum. So it's, kind of nice as it is to keep things like, a surprise to the rest of the world. It's kind of, you still kind of have that, this now public meeting that transpires.
I'm forgetting, when is the presentation?
It's, I don't actually know the date offhand, but it's at the Community Days Banquet.
Which is?
Typically April, it's like this Easter, the next following Easter weekend often. It rotates slightly, but it's close to that window.
It's too close to the April meeting to wait till then, so we need to do it now.
It typically is, and that's why we've always chosen to decide at the March meeting. Because you got to order an award. It's not just you need some lead time to process that out. So you could pick it up at the end of your meeting tonight, maybe. Want to think about it for a bit?
Is that what you guys would like to do? You want to do it now? Let's do it now.
Okay.
I'd like to encourage the board to look strongly at Keith. He's been working with a lot of kids for a long time on the lake. He's teaching a lot of kids, water safety, which is very important, and water confidence. I've seen a lot of these kids really become confident in the water, where a lot of them, before that, definitely were a little skittish about it. And I think that's great to get people confident, because that way they enjoy the lake. So, I thought about nominating Brian for his LID, but it hasn't been in completion yet, and neither is this possible dam replacement idea. Life jacket's coming to completion, but it's still not quite there. So, it's almost there. So, anyway, I just encourage the board to look strongly at Keith.
Keith and Sky as well. Yeah, it's kind of...
Make it to the Tiger.
Yeah, you could do, yeah, an entity, and they could have sent who they thought was, yeah, absolutely.
I would think that.
Mm-hmm.
They are the Tigers.
Right, yeah.
Well, they are, so why don't we recognize them personally? I mean, are they the only two main?
They're the core. There's other people that participate, and they rally to have them participate on training days.
But they're the core.
They're the core, to my knowledge, and I think others as well. They're the ones getting the sign-ups and making sure the dates are set up so that they have the training and recruiting additional skilled, coaches, if you will. But yeah, they're the core.
All right, well, what we can do, should we, got any paper for ballots, and just write here, I've got a ballot right here. Let's just write the names down. I guess we can decide, you want to do Tiger Sharks or Keith and, the other guy, what's his name?
Keith and Sky. Collectively. You could have 3 votes.
Let's do the two guys. What do you say? Is that okay with you?
What's that?
Let's do the two gentlemen by name if you're going to vote for
It's
that.
a gentleman and a woman.
Okay.
It's going to be on the record. Keith and Sky.
I also vote for Keith and Sky.
Okay. I vote for the person I nominated, Randy.
Same.
Okay. Keith and Sky are our nominees for the Lake Stewart Award.
Great.
Are the recipients of the Lake Stewart Award. Congratulations, fellas. We'll see you at Community Days. Oh. Congratulations, Keith and Sky. We'll see you at Community Days.
Other one I wanted to mention is what got brought up in the public comment. We went ahead and reserved the July 18th, third Saturday for the revival. We expect to basically be putting that on ourselves or hiring somebody kind of in the short term. But as I put in the staff report, Bama does not look like they'll be, taking the lead on that like they did last year. So as a matter of course, we've got the date, and your audio's not picking up.
I said, can we do a temp agency position for a period of time to, staff up to be able to accomplish doing that?
I think you could, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
And when would we need to start working on that?
Well, just getting a couple things done early, like 3 months out, gets you a long ways. But see, if we're at July 18th, by about 6 weeks out, you probably want to be hitting it pretty hard. So maybe somebody a few hours, 10 hours a week. I don't know what might be, but we'd have to look at that a little closer, and we have a little time to do that. But I think within 6 weeks out would be good.
Okay.
And then ramp it up to whatever is the necessary kind of staffing.
So can you bring us some options for maybe pursuing, looking at that?
Sure.
Maybe at April or May? If we're going to do a temp, we can do May, right?
Yeah. It's just a matter of advertising something and getting something together, or finding someone suitable. I think we could, yeah, you bet.
Okay, no safety incidents or updates. Midcoast TMDL.
Not much there, just the fact that they did get their bacteria beach data out, and we'll look at reviewing the northern beaches as we mentioned before. So it's pretty quick update there. East Devils there. It says no additional updates. I did speak with the road supervisor today about that project. Happened to be meeting with them on another matter. On the Ansu Creek and some fish passage issues. But, yeah, that's still slated for summer 2015. Clint Blazier, the road supervisor, confirmed that again today. So that's pretty good. That'll alleviate some of the stress again to that system. They don't expect it to be the clear all. It's not a $5 million fix. It's in the $250,000 range, so.
All right, the personnel policy. We've had a chance to review the latest updated version. Without any additional changes, that policy would be ready for adoption. So the question is, does anyone recommend any changes?
I'll make a motion that we adopt policy manual as drafted.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimously approved that that's the personnel policy will be adopted. All right, the aeration oxidation project. Paul, you've got a recommendation on moving that forward.
Yeah, so, based on your input from the last meeting and the process that we've gone to date, it's my recommendation that we, in line with ORS 297C110, subsection 8, and OAR 137-4802001B, move forward on a direct appointment with this. It's actually called out in the statute as a is an efficiency and to be utilized, and gives you the option of doing the long form effectively, but this short form is called out and and used by entities that want to do engineering projects under $100,000, and that's what it's aimed at. So that would be my recommendation to move forward on that. You have $30,000 in consulting under the improvement fund as is. It's slated for sewer or something in the sewer section, which isn't appropriated as that. It was just kind of, it's in the budget as a discussionary item associated with that. It's just still consulting, so it's not like you have to do any changes to your budget process to use that money. It's just nice to acknowledge it, I guess, if anything, so that you're aware if you were to move forward on that. The changes that I would see, and based on, the feedback that we got and the feedback that you provided, would be to scale back the outcomes associated with the aeration project. We heard that, these, trying to get everything you wanted in that kind of first go was hard, and a hard sell for folks. And one entity said, yeah, it would just be really expensive if you wanted to achieve that, for them to guarantee that you could achieve it, they'd want to charge you a lot of money. And that's not good for either entity. And so with the direct appointment, I think it benefits you because you get to kind of gauge where you want that scope of work to land more so. And so you do have that option in the other one too, but it's less so. You've kind of identified it in the RFP, and you kind of work more or less within that scope of work. This is just gives you more latitude, and so I think that moving away from those metrics associated with specific chlorophyll A data, even looking at not holding. And I speak to chlorophyll A in particular because green algae, which are going to grow out in a lake, also have chlorophyll A in them, and you're measuring those as well. So, I mentioned the staff report, maybe just look at those things that are toxigenic species or the toxins, and that may be a good approach. And you may even want to look at phasing that too, because you can't necessarily expect to win on the first go. I think with the aeration, oxidation, it's going to be a bit of a slow heal. I mean, you'll get a lot of benefit likely, if you can get the benefits out of it, like we anticipate, you can get some, and we've heard that you won't get them all. Some people said this is a tough thing to do. It doesn't work in shallow systems very. It's not going to be a guarantee, and you got people provided you that feedback as well. Just said, hey, this is a difficult thing in these systems. But in order to, if you do want to proceed, which you said that you do, and to provide that engineer a little less risk associated with their stamping and engineering project, the least you're asking for, I guess, likely the cheaper it might be for you as far as their engineering goes, and then effectively the product would be more or less the same, because what they would engineer wouldn't necessarily be any different. It would just allow them not to carry as much liability insurance against it, if that makes sense. So I would ask, that's my recommendation, is that you just allow me to go off on your behalf and seek a direct appointment under the statute.
And I guess, as I read through this, Paul, I was a little confused. So what you're asking is that we go out and find an engineer to develop a different plan or a similar plan? Is that what you're saying? And then we go out for the RFP after that? Is that correct? So
go out to for a direct appointment for an engineering plan, like you would have sought originally, right. And then just like originally, from that plan, go after the vendor bid, if you will. Yeah. So it'd be the same sequencing. It would just be, instead of going through another request for qualifications through an RFP process like we did in the first go, it makes, I think, more sense from your time perspective and your investment and trying to get at what exactly you hope to achieve by just going to, the most qualified person you can find, and then trying to contract right with them, and if that person is not able to, then maybe you step it down, just like you were soliciting those types of same entities, but you're just you're not having to advertise this 6-week bid process again, and just the work that goes into that streamlines that out.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure as I read through this exactly.
Yeah, it would be the second bid thing again, like we had in the original.
Well, you know, I think it might be a good idea to drop any specific measurables, I guess, and because, you know, what we're looking for is just, you know, the most qualified person. And if you don't hammer them with a bunch of specific parameters and measurables, we're just going to get, I think, more bids. And then we can talk about, you know, in the process of determining with whom to make the direct appointment, the direct hire. You know, we can find out what they think they can achieve and why and how. And then, along with looking at their qualifications, make the decisions. So I don't think the parameters are doing us any good. They're just scaring people off. So, I mean, literally something like we're asking for a reduction in harmful algae blooms and toxins and toxigenic factors, you know. I mean, what do you think? I think that's a better way to go about it.
Paul, how many pages is your RFP?
The original one, I think it was like 17 or 18 basic, and then there was a lot of other references in there too.
I think I would agree with Brian on that. You know, we're just trying to get some participation without locking them down. We can do that later.
I think he spelled it out here. It says instead focusing on reductions of toxins and toxigenic harmful algae blooms. So that's how you have it written in the staff report. So instead of chlorophyll A. So I think you're on the right track of what we were trying to impress upon you last month, is that we want it simplified down so people want to take a bite at it, because, you know, we want to try it out. I think it's the best bang for the buck as far as trying to improve water quality. So.
And then the other element in there too that I kind of suggest as or in a sense is this siting of compressors, power provisions, housings, etc. You know, one of the difficulties was finding somebody that was interested in achieving both the limnological engineering, you know, the ecological engineering side of it, as well as the specific civil engineering side of it. And I'm not saying that person can't be found, so this as a direct appointment would allow you maybe do find that one person, and then you're even better off versus having to come back with, say, okay, we have an aeration engineering plan, and you go out and you find the vendors, and then they bid on it, and then the vendors say, okay, we're going to need 17 sites, you know, and then you say, okay, well, we can either look at that as a plus or a minus relative to operation, and then another vendor says we're going to do it for the basically same price and you only need 3 sites, and then you do the civil engineering based on either the 3 or the 17 sites. You know, you follow that up with another one. So, you know, ideally, as it was in the first RFP, you would get everything laid out and be very clear, and it would help you in the decision-making process and the financing of that, because you know, yeah, this is what, how many shoreline sites you need, and how much power you need to come down to that, and all of those details.
So, Paul,
versus just now you would be potentially getting that, but the other reasonable anticipation would be that would be secondary.
when you talk about direct appointment, and, you know, to me, they're two distinct skill sets. The guy who's going to do the site surveys for compressors and all that stuff, and then the luminologist who would say, this is a valid way to set up a system and correct sizing and so forth, right? If we were to go with direct appointment, can we go with, can we do 2 separate engineers to do the 2 different pieces?
Yeah, you can, because you've got 2 separate engineering projects, particularly if they're collectively below $100,000.
Okay.
Because you've never even exceeded that. There is a provision that you're not, supposed to break things up so that you can give 50,000 here and 50,000 here in the statute. They want it to be solid, but you've already tried that. You've made a valid attempt at trying to get that, and you didn't get any responses. So you're kind of left looking at a full new appointment process under the law, and you're just doing it in a different way, and it's just like ending one thing and then starting brand new, because it's not like you got bids on those and then turned them down. That would be different, and breaking it up then, to my understanding, would be not what the ORS would prescribe you to do.
So, I guess we have 2 things on the table. One is, do we like the direction you're heading? I think most of us do. Sounds like it. And then the other is, do we want to go through a direct appointment process or go through more of an RFP process to find those engineering resources? Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would see that the civil engineering side would come really after even the vendor bids.
It would happen.
On the product.
Right. And that's why I think you ought to cut the civil engineering part out of the initial solicitation for the direct hire of the limnologist only.
And I just say that if you still can get it,
I don't think you're going to find it.
I don't know. And so I just left that as like kind of just a discussion point, because if you can get it, I mean, there's some benefit to that. Certainly,
Well, you can't really bid on the whole thing because he doesn't know, like you said,
Yeah.
depending on the vendor we hire, you might have 3 compressor sites or 17 compressor sites. So that engineer, he was qualified to do the civil engineering side. He can't really propose a plan as part of his plan for the aeration project until later. So I just think they're separate engineering projects, and we ought to keep them separate. And that's another way we can scare people away by binding the 2 together. Somebody's going to read it and think that they need to do both, or they're going to be disfavored if they can't do both. So I kind of think we just ought to look for the direct hire on the limnology side first, and then based on that, we'll bid for the aeration project, installation and equipment. And once you have that in the design, then I guess along comes, that the vendor and the engineer are going to have to work together, the civil engineer so anyway.
Yeah, and then that civil engineer could be, again, assumingly as long as it's not over $100,000, a direct appointment, where you just find, you go to a qualified list and find the most qualified person and try to work with them and do that. And then you've got really all of the components and the assumed costs, and you figure out how the implementation goes, if it's phased. And, like you talked about before, like, do you want to do still do you want to do a lease? And do all those other things come together as soon as you've got, your formal contract bids, and what the engineer is going to, need to go on, and then you just go to the implementation. So I think we got a pretty good strategy, and so I would just, look to a motion to move forward on this as a direct appointment for the, limnology side of developing that engine aeration setup. And, if you think that you want to have more money available, make more money available. Do what you need to do at this meeting, ideally. But, I put $30,000 out there because I thought, well, it's certainly potentially a fair number, but I don't know. Like I said before, I don't bid engineering projects. I'm not.
So do we have
engineering.
a pool of people from which you're going to contact then, or do you have somebody already in mind?
Well, we do have the same list of folks that we sent it all to.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, we do have that pool.
Okay. And we think we can get somebody in that pool then?
I think so.
You're confident?
I'm hopeful, at least yeah.
Okay.
Confident, sure. Yeah.
Well, I move that we go ahead and approve $30,000 for a direct appointment then, and move forward with that.
I'll second.
Well, how about if we authorize the manager to develop a recommendation for a direct appointment, so we have an opportunity to make the final decision on the appointment after we hear your recommendation and the...
So kind of handle it more like a regular interview process. Paul brings his recommendation
and why, and something about, I mean, and if you come to a decision at an awkward time where we got 3 weeks before the next meeting, we can have a special meeting. I mean, it's important to get this thing going as quickly as we can, but I mean, I don't know. I trust Paul's expertise, so...
I don't want to hold something back if we don't have to, but I'm willing to have a special meeting for the purpose of doing that if it's important to the majority of the board.
That's probably a better idea. I mean, if we can move forward with that.
You want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw my motion then.
Well, all right, so...
Withdraw your second.
I'll move that we authorize the lake manager to proceed with developing a recommendation for a direct appointment for the development of an engineering plan and for a person to develop an engineering plan and a general report, I guess is the words our statute uses, for an aeration oxidation project for Devil's Lake.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Replacement of the water impoundment device. Mr. Weldon.
There's nothing new. Basically, we're just going to be holding the public hearing to make a decision if we want to go that route or not, April 9th, during our normal meeting. Correct, Paul?
Yeah, and you also have on there, I'll read the full announcement because you've asked for basically more than that to have at your public hearing. You said, so this would be an announcement associated with that. It's published in the staff report and it'll be published in the news guard. But Devil's Lake Water Improvement District will hold a public meeting as part of its April 9th, 2015 meeting. The meeting will start at 6 p.m. and will be held at Lincoln City Council Chambers, 801 Southwest Highway 101, 3rd floor, Lincoln City, Oregon 97367. The purpose of the public hearing will be for the board to take public input on the potential replacement of the impoundment structure, otherwise known as a dam, and the overall managed use and or continuance of the district's water right certificate 69267, as well as permit to appropriate the public waters number 52672 and permit to store the public waters number R-11968.
Thank you. Paul, have you had a chance to get the engineering report back? Where are we at?
No, we're right at the timeline where that 3-week window is about expiring, so we do not have it yet. But
so you expect to
as soon as we get it and we can make it available to folks, we'll do so online, and it certainly will be part of that week in advance meeting announcement. So that'll give people enough time. I would think, and certainly that's the time that we afford for these kind of staff reports and et cetera. So basically, that element, just so that people know what we're talking about, is just an engineering report associated with the technology to do impoundment, typically just temporarily in the summertime, you know.
So that will give us all the options that are available to us?
No, it won't give you all the options.
No,
It'll give you the
It
ones
should give
that
us
we
viable
outlined in there.
Viable options.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Senator Wyden's bill in our letter. So Paul has provided us with a draft letter, and what's up for our consideration is to submit the letter as drafted, make changes, or not submit the letter. It's your pleasure, gents.
I thought the letter was pretty good. I'm not in the mood to pick apart language or anything like that, but I think the spirit of the letter was what we were talking about. I support, submitting as drafted. Somebody, you can call that a motion if you want. So I guess I'll make a motion that we submit the letter as drafted on behalf of the district.
I'll second that motion. Discussion?
Well, some of our discussion was we had a map of basically Devil's Lake and the surrounding area. We did not know what effect this had on, say, Southern Oregon communities that are, much more dependent on logging for, revenue. So I went online and I looked at some maps that were attached to some of these, and it looked like actually one of the largest tracts is fairly close to us, and another one's up near Tillamook. And other than that, the tracts that they're talking about changing are actually pretty small throughout the state. So anyway, that concern, I don't think is a real issue. It's not like we're supporting shutting down jobs or anything like that. So, or helping protect the watershed with this.
Yeah, I agree. That's our job, and whatever hats we might wear personally, protection of this watershed is our official job, and I think this letter does a good job of expressing that the U.S. Forest Service method of doing it is better than BLM's. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So you at the last meeting you also talked about, or I think I mentioned it, that the approach that I would anticipate would be to send it to Merkley, as well as Senator Merkley and Representative Kurt Schrader too. So that I drafted up exact same language associated and have those for signature if you want those. Assume that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion. Do we need a motion for that? I'm fine with sending to all our representatives, right?
Yeah, I think it's
all
like
those who represent us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, any new business? Any non-agenda items? Any citizens wish to make additional comments on non-agenda items? Board comments and announcements. Apparently, Paul, you want to announce something about the Devil's Lake Family Fishing Frenzy.
Yeah, so that event's going to be held at Regatta Grounds March 28th. It's the second Saturday of spring break. It's put on by ODF&W. Kent may be there. I think he had shown some interest, I know, about helping volunteer with those folks. And, it's a great event. They had like 200 kids down there last year, and I actually have gotten some signage that we'll use for that event, but also the revival kind of made up some permanent signage, so we're not printing a bunch of stuff, arrows, directional arrows, those kind of things, boat launch closing. So we'll get some use out of those at that meeting, or at that event. And I did have another announcement. The life jacket loaner station is actually very near complete. It's been, built down there at Regatta Grounds. We're going to have a ribbon cutting and invite the public to. Lincoln City Chamber ambassadors are going to help put that on for us. So that's going to be March 20th at 3 p.m. So come join us, and kudos, Randy, for putting that together, because it really, your work and your idea coming forward, and so yeah, and then partnering, got that done. So yeah, that'll be pretty exciting, and I just want to make that announcement to you.
What was the time of that again?
3 p.m. March 20th. That's the Friday before spring break. So the idea was to get it set up for spring break, and so that's right in cue with what we're doing.
Any other board comments or announcements?
I think this has been the shortest meeting in 4 years.
You're lengthening the meeting, Kevin.
Second place now.
We're adjourned.
I was thinking we could do it in an hour at this point.